Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Edward Ornelas, President of the Inland Empire Regional Chamber of Commerce. Today is a series of webinars that we are producing in partnership with the Otis Academy and the County of San Bernardino. Today's webinar, we're going to be discussing a time management hour, how to effectively manage your time. Proud to introduce our speaker and educator and leader of our educational division, Mr. Eddy Sumar. At this time, I want to give it away to you, sir. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ornelas. And I want to thank the County of San Bernardino for allowing us to put on this wonderful webinar for all of us, and it's going to be recorded. That's very important because this is a very important subject. Notice as a time management hour. In fact, we need to manage not only 1 hour, but every day we are really breathing and alive. We need to manage our time. But I want to really discuss one important fact about time and time management. Many times we hear the expression time management. Let me give you the bad news first. That means we cannot manage time. Time cannot be managed. It's one directional. It keeps moving forward. Nobody can save it. Nobody can waste it. Nobody can do anything with it. Why? Because we have no control on time. We have control on ourselves. So really, it's not about time management. It's about managing self in the context of time. But because everybody uses the expression time management, that's why we name it. But really, it's about how we manage ourselves, our urges, our desires, our needs. Because many times, from the moment we wake up in the morning, now we have competing priorities. When we wake up, we decide, shall I go to work or not? Shall I get dressed or not? Shall I drink coffee or not? Shall I drink tea or not? Now, all of a sudden, we have to make all these decisions. When we think of managing self in the context of time, it's really about decision-making, it's about prioritizing, it's about scheduling, and so forth. So I'll be sharing with you a plethora of techniques that can help you to manage yourselves in the context of time. In fact, there is a beautiful quote that says, some people count time, others make time count. Which means when we think about it, when we wake up every morning, are we making time count? Which means, are we working on what is important? Or are we just fighting fires? Are we just going after the urgent matters? And later I'll explain to you the difference between important and urgent. In fact, when we fight fires and we are in the urgent quadrant, we're really counting time. We are not making time count. So that's really one thing I want you to think about. In the next slide, you see here the time management corner, which is self-management in the context of time. There are two things that I will help you with. Two tools, the matrix and the 80-20 rule. And later, I'll show how they are very, very important in helping ourselves to really manage ourselves in the context of time. Here is our agenda today. We are going to answer the question, why do we need time management? What are the benefits of time management? What are time wasters? What are the areas related to time management? Notice having a system, understanding the power of the productivity pyramid, having a can-do attitude. Notice can-do is an acronym, each letter meaning something. And then we are going to learn about scheduling and prioritizing. And then we'll end up with a synthesis. Now just look at this screen. What do you see? The reason we need to manage self in the context of time, or for short, time management, let's call it, crisis. Which one of us on the today on this call that doesn't deal with crisis on a daily basis? How many times we feel we are in a boat and it's sinking? We are buried in paperwork. And many times we will shout, SOS, help, whether we are managers, whether we're employees, even at home, parents, children, we have chores to do. So in essence, every one of us needs to understand the power of time management. Look at here. Are you juggling among multiple priorities? Understand these two words. It's not just priorities, multiple priorities. So we are working on 3, 4, 5, 6 things all at the same time. Now, to make time count is very important. Why? Because of the benefits. Think about it. Stress reduction, higher productivity. You will achieve your goals. That means what's important to you. We'll get better results on the personal and professional level. We are going to control our workload. We are going to have better relationships with peers, management, and customers, even at home with our family and siblings and so forth. It's so liberating. It creates more free time and real time, and it really is fun. Think about it. If we are able to manage ourselves and our emotions in the context of time, at work, we're going to have a better relationship with our bosses, with our peers, our colleagues, and even with our customers. Just imagine if customers start complaining about us because we're not fulfilling their needs and their requests. That is going to put us under stress. So that's why anytime we manage self, managing self here is another skill. We call that EQ, emotional intelligence. That means when you want to manage yourself, you understand the power of your emotion. Because in emotional intelligence, first, you have to be aware of yourself to manage your emotion, then be aware of the other person to manage the relationship. And then we bring in the BQ, the behavioral intelligence, which means what is the appropriate behavior in that particular situation with that particular person. So you can see now when we are managing, we call that managing time. Really, we are managing ourselves. Because when we are emotionally balanced, now we can take care of the paperwork. And I'll show you a technique today how even, no matter how much paperwork we have, they fall into one of 4 quadrants. Whether it's going to be something that we have to do and act on it, or we have something to abandon and trash it, or advance it and refer it to someone else, or archive it to do it later. There is no fifth. So if everything that comes our way, we're able to organize it in that fashion through one of 4 quadrants, then we're going to be less stressed, and then we're going to be more productive because we're going to be doing what is important, not just what is urgent. Now, here's just the tip of the iceberg about time wasters. But there are 2 categories here: self-imposed, and then those imposed by others. So right there, many times when we waste really our efforts on going after the wrong priorities or not doing the right job, it starts with our attitude. Notice self-imposed. If we have a poor or negative attitude, we are not going to do any job. Because when we have negative attitude about something, we're not going to be motivated to do that job. We are going to be procrastinating. And that's why also fatigue. When we have negative attitude and we're not able to produce, we are going to feel stressed. Stress leads to fatigue and ultimately burnout. Lack of self-discipline, procrastination, even laziness from time to time could be self-imposed because we can control that. Paper shuffling. How many times we find ourselves or shuffling through text or shuffling through emails? We just get something and we just keep looking at the paper or at the text or at the email and doing nothing about it. These are all time wasters, but they are self-imposed because we can control that. Socializing. We're at work. Instead of starting to work, we go to the kitchen, get our coffee, be by the water cooler, talk to others, and not doing the work. What happens when people socialize in the early hours of the morning? They're not producing work. Then all of a sudden they get very frustrated by the middle of the day, by the late afternoon, that the day has passed so quickly, but they have achieved nothing. Socializing is one of the self-imposed time wasters and culprits. But then there are those imposed by others. This is just the tip of the iceberg. You can add hundreds of others. One of the things is interruptions. And in fact, I was doing research many years ago, and this is amazing. It says, in every hour, each one of us has a minimum of 7 interruptions. Just imagine, 1 hour, 60 minutes, we have 7 interruptions. Then the same article said, in order for us to go back to what we're doing, it takes 7 minutes to come back to what we're doing. 7 interruptions and 7 minutes, that's 49 minutes. That means your productive time was a total of 11 minutes. Yesterday, I Googled an article that said, if I get distracted from what I'm doing, how many minutes do I need to go back mentally to refocus? One article says 23 minutes and 15 seconds. Another article says 30 minutes, just to take an average. Really, if I'm going to be distracted, and then it takes me almost, let's say, an average of 25 minutes to go back, 2 distractions, that's 50 minutes. Wow, that tells us interruptions and distractions are really productivity killers. That's why the Pomodoro technique and other techniques tell you, if you want to do something, concentrate in increments of 25 minutes. Start something, do it for 25 minutes, take 5 minutes break. Another 25 minutes, take 5-minute break. And they feel for every hour, you need 10-minute breaks. It rejuvenates our gray cells, our brain. It keeps us in motion for 25, take a break. People think sometimes taking a break, remember, a break is not a distraction, it's not an interruption, because you can plan your day by doing increments of 25-minute projects. You take a project of 3-5 hours, break it into 25-minute tasks and items, and then take a break. Is like sharpening the saw. There was a beautiful story. 2 men went out to the forest to cut trees. Both took their axes. One kept cutting the tree hour after hour and got tired. Another one was every few minutes he was stopping and sharpened the axe. Who do you think was more productive at the end of the day? The one who stopped to sharpen the axe. So really, are we sharpening our mental axe, so to speak? So yes, if we are able to concentrate for a block of time and then take a break to sharpen our minds, our axe, we are going to be far more productive. Another one is deadlines. A lot of people think that they're productive because they're meeting someone else's deadline. Remember, it's others people's deadline. That means you are doing someone else's priorities, someone else's important things. So these deadlines imposed by others might be also a time waster. Poor communication. Sometimes our bosses will come to us and say, Eddy, I want you to do 1, 2, 3. I'll start doing 1, 2, 3 without realizing what is the end result, what are the deliverables, what do you really want me to do? Do you want me 1, 2, 3 in sequence? Maybe the boss says, do 1, 2, 3, but I want you to start with 3 first, then 1 second, and then the second, third. Poor lack of communication, lack of clarity is going to really put us in trouble with our bosses. So it's very important when a boss gives us an assignment, we need to ask the boss, is this urgent? When do you need it by? What is the intended result? What do you need me to do, etc., etc. Having clear, concise communication is going to make us more productive. Otherwise, it will be a time waster. Lack of instruction and training. Many times, managers delegate a matter to their employees without the right instructions or the right training to execute on that job. That's why it's very important. I recommend to all my clients and the companies always to train their employees, to retrain their employees and upskill them And whenever a manager gives an assignment to an employee, make sure that the employee understands the depth, the scope, the breadth of that assignment, and that the employee has the skills needed to execute on that assignment. So with the proper training, we can secure that these skills are going to be provided and acquired by that employee. Now, what are the areas that are related to self-management in the context of time? Very simple. Having a system. Because really a system is about having a discipline. And the good thing about the word discipline, many people think discipline is negative. In reality, it's very positive. Think about it, the word discipline, disciple is in the word discipline, which means disciples are pupils that are being taught and instructed. So really, we have a process, a set of instruction to execute on a task or achieve an action. The second area is the productivity pyramid, and this is very, very important. The third area is making sure that every single one of us, we have a schedule, we have a to-do list, and we understand the steps that are needed to prioritize, to do what is critical and important first, rather than what's urgent and not important. And then a can-do attitude. And we'll discuss the word can-do as an acronym. Now, have a system, but notice I add one system. Many times people become less productive is because they have multiple systems. I'm not talking about redundancies and backup, but I'm talking about having a system, and then some people have 3, 4 different systems to do the same job. Just concentrate on one system and perfect the system, then you are going to be far more productive. Just imagine if you had an Excel sheet to follow up on a list, and then you have it on a Google Doc, and then you have it somewhere else. Now just flipping between the different system is going to be a time waster. Because remember, time and motion study tells us everything we do, every action, every movement has a price in time. This is a beautiful matrix. I love this. And notice the I versus the you. If you just remember this important differentiating point, when you look at the matrix, we say important and urgent, not important and urgent, important, not urgent, not important, not urgent. Now, to make it easy for you, if you go to the lower right-hand corner of quadrant, that means anything that says not urgent, not important, ignore, abandon, trash. Right there. You saved yourself 1/4, 25% of this matrix. What about the other 75%? Where do I need to be? Urgent and important. Not urgent and important. A lot of people say, Eddie, I want to be in the urgent and important all the time. Yes and no. I want to be in the important but not urgent quadrant. This is what I want you to highlight, the upper right-hand corner. Important, not urgent. We are going to reside there most of the time. And I'll explain in a second. Urgent, important also need to be there, but not all of the time, some of the time. Urgent, not important, minimum amount of time. Why? Remember, what are the first 2 letters of urgent? Just look at the phonetics. You are. That means I'm pointing to someone else's priorities. When I say you are, they become. If I'm working on someone's priorities, they become, they achieve their goals, they achieve what's important to them, then what's happening to me? I'm wasting my time, really. I'm not doing what's important to me. Now, if you take the first 2 letters of important and you put an apostrophe, it becomes I am, which means I become. And every time, imagine you're a CEO of a company, you are a manager. You need at least 80% of your time to be in the important, not urgent quadrant, because then you are becoming as a CEO, becoming as a manager, becoming as a company. But if you are in the urgent quadrant, but not important, then you are helping others become, helping others be the best they could become. So that's where the fine line of understanding this matrix. Now look at this slide. Why? Notice, leadership is in the important, not urgent. We call that the quadrant of leadership. This is where CEOs of companies, managers, they think about policies, procedures, planning, maintenance, values, prevention. This is where people think of the consequences of actions, the consequences of policies and procedures, the consequences of not really helping their employees to be the best they could become. But a lot of managers said, but Eddy, I don't have time to do all of that. We have to make time. Because when we are in the important, not urgent quadrant, we are leading ourselves, we are leading our companies and others to success. But sad to say, most people are in the urgent, important quadrant. Notice we have to be there because it's important. I am, the company will become, but it's urgent. Other people priorities. These are the challenges, we fires. This is also we manage and produce. But if we are urgent, not important, we're dealing with noise. It's the quadrant of deception. And if we are not important, not urgent, is the quadrant of waste. So notice, quadrant of waste, you want to eliminate completely. Quadrant of leadership, you want to reside there. Quadrant of deception, you want to eliminate that noise and try to really bring it down to less than 1%. And then the quadrant of necessity, we have to be there on a daily basis, but we need to lessen the exposure. In fact, in this slide, I show you the categories that you find in these quadrants. Urgent, important, you are dealing with crises. A client calls you and they're upset. That's a crisis. That's urgent. It's important. You want to keep the customer happy, delighted. A truck breaks down, a car breaks down, something. That's a pressing problem. You need to fix it. Deadlines come upon us. Government set deadlines. Sometimes say, oh, the company has to comply with COVID regulations, with OSHA requirements, with the federal government, with IRS regulations. If you are a small business, you have to do your quarterly taxes. Businesses have to pay payroll. They have to pay payroll taxes. These are all deadlines. They are urgent, but also they are important. Because if we don't comply, we get penalized, we pay interest. We are fighting fires. COVID-19 is in this quadrant. But look how the important, not urgent quadrant. This is where we prepare, we plan, we think of strategic planning, we create our values, the vision, mission of our companies. It's about relationship building. Think about it. If we're a company and we are in sales and marketing, building relationship with your customer not only will help you to increase the top line, which is sales revenue, it will help you to build credit with your vendors, will lower the cost of goods sold, increase your gross margin. And then if you are working good with others, with your clients, they'll pay you on time. Now your receivables are paid on time. You don't have bad debt. And that's part of your operating cost. Your bad debt expense will be zero. This quadrant, we do training and learning. It's the quadrant of prevention. Because an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. It's empowerment. This is where we create matrices of training for every person in the company and make sure that everyone in the company is upgraded, upskilled, up to date with everything they need. This is really the quadrant of true recreation of self and the company. But if you are in the urgent, not important, these are interruptions, some phone calls, emails, texts, extra activities, some reports, and so forth. And ultimately, not urgent, not important, time wasters that we discussed a moment ago, some phone calls, emails, and some activities. So this quadrant, notice, important, not urgent, is where we want to be. Now, here is some percentages. You want to be at least 80% of your time in the quadrant of leadership. Less than 0.01% in the quadrant of waste, because you'll never be able to have zero waste because you get an email, you get a spam, you still have to look at it to decide if it's important or not, if it's spam or not, if it's scam or not. So you're going to have some, but we'll make sure it's very, very minimal. The quadrant of deception, unfortunately, because it's urgent, someone else's priority, not important to you, is going to be less than 5%. and you want to be 15% in the quadrant of necessity. You don't want to be fighting fires every day, but unfortunately they happen. This is just the range. Now, my approach will be, why don't we be 85% in the quadrant of leadership or more, 10% in necessity or less, and so forth. So that's how you play along. You can move the numbers. The goal is increase your important, not urgent activities, because that's where the true recreation of self and company are residing. Now, notice what is the benefit of being in the leadership quadrant? You have vision, you gain perspective, you have balance, you have control, and yes, few crises. But now, if we reside in the quadrant of necessity, I guarantee you there will be stress. When your employees, you as an owner of a company, you keep fighting fires, at the end of the day, you are going to feel the stress, the frustration could lead to burnout. You are really in crisis management mode all the time, always putting out fires. Now, if we are in the quadrant of deception, it's really short-term focus. Again, crisis management. You feel out of control, you're going to feel victimized. And if we reside all the time in the quadrant of waste, that's total irresponsibility. There will be failed resolve, loss of control, and for companies and individuals, it could end up in bankruptcy or in insolvency. Notice that was a beautiful matrix. And I can talk on it days. We can take every quadrant and go deeper and deeper. So that's a very important tool to master. The other tool that I like to share with you, which came out of Vilfredo Pareto, an economist in Italy, he talked about the 80-20 rule. Really, what does he mean? You'll be surprised to know that 20% of our activities will get us 80% results. That means on our to-do list, we might have 10 activities. Go after the 2 activities, the 20% that's going to give you 80% result. And then a lot of people think, oh my God, I have another 8, but all the other 8 activities are going to give you 20% result. So what this 80-20 rule tells us, match the result with the effort. If 2 activities will give you 80% result, give those activities 80% of your effort and time. And if 8 activities are going to give you 20% result, give it only 20% of your effort and time. Because if we do that, we are going to be far more productive. If you are a salesperson, I guarantee you, if you are a company, your portfolio, you might have 1,000 customers or 100 customers. A handful of customers are giving you the bulk of your revenue. Those are the customers that are going to really spend a lot of time cultivating relationship, making sure that they are delighted, making sure that their credit line is up to par, and they pay you on time. If you put a lot of effort in cultivating that relationship, that account is going to give you 80% result. But I worked in a collection agency, and in fact, collection agencies, we split the desk into low balance collector, medium balance collector, and large balance collector. Because you might have balances less than $300, you dial for money, and you cannot spend a lot of time on those because you might have 100 accounts you call that morning, and if the average account is only $100, that's only $10,000. But if I'm dealing with large balances, and some of them are $250,000, 100,000, 50,000, if I called a couple and I got it paid, look at the difference. Calling a 100 account at $100 balance average, that's 10,000. Calling 3-4 accounts and I collected 100,000. That's how we look at it. We need to understand where is the weight in that portfolio. Always think of the 80-20 rule. What are the few activities, the few things you need to target to get maximum result for that day? And I can assure you psychologically, if you start with the elephant in the room, with the tough account, with the biggest amount, and you get to positive result, you are feeling so enthused, so energized. Now you can take on the other 80% of that portfolio and finish it so quickly. Why? Because the brain is on the edge of excellence. You achieved. It's so amazing. What I tell people, try to get early successes in the day. And I can tell you this, like sometimes when you call people, imagine if you try to call 10 people and none of them picked up the phone, then you feel not fulfilled. But it's amazing. Some days you make a phone call, the person is there, you achieve resolution. You second phone call, person is there, achieve resolution. By the time you have 4 5 calls of positive results, you are so energized, and that day you're extremely, extremely productive. So that's really the mental mindset we want to put ourselves in. Find early successes in the day, so the whole day is going to be extremely productive. In fact, Sharon Stone said, I like to drive with my knees, otherwise how can I put on my lipstick and talk on the phone? So what really she's saying is about multitasking. But guess what? Neuroscience and brain research has showed us that the brain does not like multitasking. When we multitask, we are less productive. People think that they are extremely productive. They are not. The brain is being fragmented, is really that interruption or distraction. I did this test the other day. I was watching the news, I'm reading a book, and I'm looking at my tablet just as a test. I finished an article reading, but I didn't remember it after that. The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve comes into play here because my mind was fragmented. I couldn't remember. Now do the same test. Read the article without distraction, underline and highlight the key points, then go to watching that TV episode, and then do your emails. I was able to remember that article because I concentrated on that article. So don't be fooled by the multitasking syndrome. Multitasking is not a good idea. Before you can score, you must first have a goal. That's another thing. If you want to be productive, what are you aiming at? You can't throw your arrows to hit target if you don't know where is the center of that aim. What are you going to hit? So if you want to score, you must first have a goal. And that takes us to another important tool, the productivity pyramid. Notice here, the base of the pyramid of the triangle are daily goals. Because think about it, our daily goals should be multiple. Like, I need to make this phone call, I need to call this client, I need to go to the store, I need to go to this appointment. So you have multiple small daily goals. But as you go up the pyramid, your short-term goals will be less, intermediate goals will be less, long-range goal will be less, and then your governing values are at the top of the pyramid because they really shed the light on what you are going to do. This is the high beam that is going to light your way. If you have governing values, I can guarantee you your long-range goals will be achieved because your intermediate goals are achieved, your short-term goals are achieved, and your daily goals are achieved. So start on a daily basis. That's why, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Have daily goals, but you have to have governing values, ultimate vision that you are going towards. Look towards the top of the pyramid as the lighthouse that beckons you as the mariner to come to shore to the safety of the harbor. So your governing values are very important that will lead you to success. So I love this pyramid because really, ultimately, if I want to achieve anything, if I don't have daily goals, I'm not going to achieve my long-range goals. Here is another technique. In fact, many years ago, I read a beautiful book by Stephanie Winston, and she talks about how to be organized. And in her book, she says, classify actions into tasks and classify tasks into items. Wow. So in essence, no matter what I want to achieve, don't just say, let's say I want to go from here to, for example, let's say Dubai. Luckily today, we have a direct flight from Los Angeles to Dubai. But when I first went there in the 1990s, I had to go from Los Angeles to London, London to Cairo, Cairo, Dubai. So then now all of a sudden, it took about 30-some hours to reach final destination between checking in, layovers, and so forth. But how can you, as a traveler, think of that? Just say, let me think of the first leg. Los Angeles to London. Let me enjoy that. And then I have 8-9 hour wait in London. Then I can go visit downtown London, then come back to the airport. See, by breaking down that long journey, I can take it mentally and emotionally. So the same thing in a business. What actions do we want to achieve? In order to achieve the action, we need tasks 1, 2, 3. Notice I didn't put 4. Harvard has a good study. The rule of threes is very empowering. You can always write 3 things you want to do. Once you achieve them, add another 3. The brain is going to hold on to that and make it a success. Once you go 4, 5, 6, the brain feels overwhelmed. But also they go beautifully by saying, when you think of tasks, remember also there is high energy, tasks that require prime time, and high energy, medium time, medium energy, downtime, and low energy. Which means when you are at your prime, tackle the items that need a lot of effort and high energy. In the middle of the day when you feel I can go on, but I'm a little bit tired, tackle those that need medium energy and medium time. And then towards the end of the day, do the low energy and downtime items. Now, you take the task and each task would be broken into ABCs. Those with high impact, medium impact, low impact. Like if I were to do a collection, I might look at the portfolio of the company and say, oh, I have 1,000 clients. They owe me $1 million. Today, these are the ones that are past dues. I'm not going to go after those who owe me $500,000. I'm going to go with the highest impact, the ones that owes me the highest amount. Then the one that owes me the medium amount, and then the one that owes me the low amount, because the high amount has high impact. So that's very important. That's another tool. If we classify our actions into tasks and the tasks into items, any daunting project will be achieved without being stressed out and without being burned out. What else can help us? Scheduling and prioritizing, which means, do we have schedules? And do we know how to prioritize? In fact, a beautiful Chinese proverb says, a journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step. Notice, why didn't it say with a single mile? I love that. Because sometimes the most hard part is the first step. So if you take the first step, becomes 2, becomes 10, becomes a mile, becomes 1,000. So again, you want to be productive, start working on the project. Start with a single step and then eat that elephant one bite at a time. Scheduling. Have a to-do list. But something I want you to add to that to-do list. Like, for example, say, my to-do list has 20 items today, but the top 3 are here, but then there are 17 underneath it. You want to add 2 more. You want to add, what are the sources? That means, who is waiting for the result? Is it your boss? Is it your customer? Is it your peers? Or is it you? By understanding the source, it helps you prioritize. Imagine, if my boss wants me to do a task, that is high priority. It will impact me. That will be high impact. Imagine if I decided my boss wants this, but I'm going to do what my colleague wants me to do because my colleague is my friend. That's wrong, because the source is weaker. We have to look at the source. The source is going to give me the priority code, the weight. So the higher the source, the higher the weight. And also have a master list. That's one thing people fail to realize. If you have 100 things you want to do work, put them in a master list and then tackle that list based on the source, the weight, the impact that each item on that list is going to generate, and the ultimate result using, again, the 80-20 rule. In fact, if we try to chase 2 rabbits, both will escape. Have you tried to do that? I worked in Kentucky on a farm, and there were many rabbits there. It's going to be very hard to go after 1 rabbit. Imagine now 2 or 3. So don't chase 2 rabbits. Both will escape. In fact, we all heard of Thomas Alva Edison. Here is a page from his diary. Imagine, here is a very known inventor. He had, look at this beautiful, a page from his to-do list from 1888, January the 3rd. Look what he said. Things doing and to be done. I love that. Things doing and to be done. So stay in the present, but also think of the future. And then he says, I want cotton picker, new standard phonograph. So look at the things that even Thomas Alva Edison was working on. And that's why he invented a lot of things, because he had his to-do list. He had his schedules. Prioritizing. In reality, each one of us, we need to create some type of a code. Like if you are in sales, we say ABC means always be closing, but also ABC, who are your A customers, your B customers, and your C customers. So in essence, on your to-do list, remember I said you have to put different columns. You're going to say, these are the items on my to-do list, these are the sources, and then these are the priority codes. That's why I always love the Harvard method. Choose the 3 items on that to-do list that have the highest priority code and start there. And as you fulfill and achieve those, move on to the next and to the next. Always have 3 things that you want to achieve in a day. But once you achieve the 3 things, start adding. And 1 drops, always keep 3 in the queue. Finish number 1, now you have 2, 3, 4 becomes 3, 3 becomes 2, 2 becomes 1. So that's how all the time keep achieving and adding, always work on 3 on the top of the to-do list. So use priority codes, classify actions into important and urgent, tasks into 1 to 3, items into ABC. If you do that, it keeps you grounded in your priorities. Now, how do I juggle multiple priorities? Can do. That's beautiful. 25 years ago, I was doing training for our salespeople and my staff at Rainbow Corporation, and I found a beautiful video from Communications Briefing, and they had this acronym, the CAN do. And they said, if you want to achieve anything, start with your attitude. I like that. Check your attitude. Because many times our attitude, our own mindset could be the obstacle to achieving results. So we need to check our attitude. We need to be positive. The A, notice what it says, assess your weaknesses and strengths. There is nothing wrong to have weaknesses, but we need to assess our weaknesses to assess our strengths. Because we are as good as our weakest link. And we're as good as our team. If I have strength and I understand my weaknesses, now I can work with a team that have those strengths that neutralize my weaknesses. And my strengths neutralize their weaknesses. The N, nail down an organizational method. That's very important. Like having that matrix, important and urgent. Having the 80-20 rule. And here is another method of organization. I call it the A method, or we can call it the D method. The A method, for example, any item you get, 1 of 4 quadrants. Like as I mentioned before, something comes your way, you say, do I need to act on it? A for act. That means you have to do it. It's important to you. What if you say, this is something I need to do it, but I don't have the time right now, but no one else can do it. And it's not needed right now, so it's not urgent. So archive it. But here is the trick. Most people archive something, and then when they retrieve it later, they say, what is this? I don't know what to do. When you are in the zone, any piece of paper, any item you face, say, if I want to act on it, I do it now. If I want to archive it, take a couple of minutes and say, this is what I need to do on this item, and write your thoughts. Because I guarantee you, when you retrieve that piece of paper later, you might not remember what you wanted to do. But if you wrote it, as one of the judges on TV says, say it, forget it, write it, regret it. But in this case, you are not going to regret it because you wrote what you want to do, and it's going to save you a lot of time. There will be no second guessing what this item needs. The third thing, if I say this item is neither important nor urgent, I don't need to do it, abandon it. That means trash it. And ultimately, if you say this item is important, but I don't have the skills or the ability or the time, I need to delegate it to someone else, advance it. So you see, act, archive, advance, abandon. That's the A method. We can call it the D method. Decide and do. Defer, destroy, or delegate. So there is a lot of things. Find an organizational method that can help you with your workload. The D, divide and conquer your workload, and then overcome procrastination. That's why a lot of people don't know what to do or juggle multiple priorities, because they procrastinate. It's because the fear of failure or not knowing what to do and so forth. Just start, divide the job, conquer one piece at a time, and remember, a journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step. How do I juggle? There are 9 things that we need to understand first. 1, no matter what I need to do, set your goals. Once you set a goal, have an action plan, because a goal cannot be reached without a plan. But then once you have a plan, you have to organize. That means understand what needs to be done, by whom, when, and so forth, which means you have to do the right thing the right way at the right time with the right skills, with the right people around you. That's part of organization. So once you have a goal, you have a plan, and now you organize the tools, the resources, the people that will help you to achieve that goal. And then have a to-do list, because it's really your daily map that will help you. Imagine Thomas Edison had a to-do list. We can do that. And then once you do that, time to execute, lead the charge. And as you lead the charge, measure your progress. It's like when you are driving from point A to point B. If I were going from here to San Diego, I want to say, how much more time? I will count the miles. Oh, now I'm in Oceans. Oh, I'm here, I'm there, I'm in Temecula. I know, okay, from here to Temecula, I crossed almost 50 miles or plus. Oh, I'm now in here. Oh, I crossed 60 miles. Measuring your progress will give you the energy to continue going. Then learn to choose wisely. If you want to succeed, it's really about choice. Remember, a piece of paper, you choose, abandon it, archive it, or act on it, or advance it. Which one? That's why there's a lot of subjective decisions that you have to make, as well as objective. But ultimately, choose wisely, because every decision you make is going to affect the other results. Start with the most critical and important. Don't start with the easy task. Start with a tough task. And then apply the 80-20 rule. You see, if we take all these 9 steps together, it will help us how to juggle among multiple priorities and how to be productive. A synthesis. In fact, I use this in high schools with students, but I thought it's very good, appropriate for even for all of us, which means start with your long-range goals, values, and objectives, whether personally or professionally or a student. Relate the day's activities to those goals. Schedule our study time, task goals, and activities. Notice, even us professional people, we need study time. I'm a credit professional. Every year I have to recertify, and I have to have so many hours of training. Doctors, attorneys, engineers, they have continuous professional unit. So in essence, we need study time. CEOs of company, your study time could be reading articles, being up to date on legislation, acts, ordinances. That's part of study time. Assign priorities, execute, stay on track. Don't be distracted. Avoid interruptions if possible. Be disciplined. That's why time management really is about managing self in the context of time. It's about creating a discipline by having a system. Monitor, evaluate your progress, then reschedule and reprioritize. There is nothing wrong to reschedule. There is nothing wrong to reprioritize. It will keep you going. Chesterfield said, take care of the minutes and the hours will take care of themselves. And that's the key. Every day we have the same amount of hours, all of us, 24 hours. Each hour is made of 60 minutes. And each minute is made of seconds. So take care of the seconds, they'll take care of the minutes, they'll take of the hours, they'll take of the day. And with that, thank you very much. And that puts us about 5 minutes to 12. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.